What really is the difference between over-the-board players or OTB players and online chess players? In my Journey to 2000 ELO on chess.com series, I get comments all the time pointing out that a 2000 rated player online on chess.com is really just and that's where it varies, 1500, 1600, whatever FIDE rated player. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the biggest differences that I have noticed as a mostly online player myself, although I have some experience with OTB. I've played probably around 30 to 40 OTB classical games, meaning 1 hour, 30 minutes or 40 minutes, etc. And a couple tournaments as well. I'm then going to give some advice and things that I have learned, whether you are an over-the-board player that is maybe looking to improve their online ELO, or whether you're an online player looking to get into over-the-board chess. So let's get started. Number one, we're going to start with the most glaringly obvious difference between OTB players and online players, and that is that online players often do not take the time to find the best or the winning move, and often don't think or calculate beyond maybe 3 moves. Whereas an over-the-board chess player, even at a lower rating, will probably take the time to find the best move to the limits of their own abilities. I'm going to show you a couple examples of this from my own games. Here is a game that I played, an online 10-minute game that I played fairly recently. And as you guys can see, let me switch to the eval view. Here you go. So you can see the engine analysis in the evaluation. White is very clearly winning. I am playing as black. I have a queen and a rook versus queen, knight, and rook. So I decided to give it a shot before resigning. I took on b2, right? I am threatening to take the rook. I'm not really threatening to take the knight, but I am exerting some kind of pressure. My entire idea in this position was simply this lingering threat of queen f2 check with some back rank issues. White here has 7 minutes and 30 seconds, right? 7 minutes and 30 seconds, and there really is only one way for me to win this and for White to lose this, and that is to blunder checkmate. What did they play? They played the only move with 7 minutes on the clock that blunders checkmate immediately. And this is not something that this is a 1957 rated player on chess.com. This is not something that they were incapable of finding. This is simply due to not taking the time to find the best move. Online players, we often get impatient. We just want to go, 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 go. And it happened to cost my opponent the game here because of queen f2 check. And this is a classic pattern you'll see with puzzles, right? King's forced over, and then you have the back rank mate. So that's one example. Another example, and these are very, very recent, guys. Within the last week, these are just like the last examples that I have of an opponent blundering because they didn't take the time. Okay, here is another example from an online game that I played very recently versus an 1887 rated opponent. I'm playing the black pieces. I'm clearly losing. It's 2 rooks versus a knight and a rook, and White has way more pawns too. I decided to keep playing, so let's see how this plays out. I basically am just maneuvering this knight back and forth, hoping for some kind of miracle. Little by little, they get their king into some kind of danger, and we get to this position, right? Rook g4 check. White has 4 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. That is more than enough time to try to find the winning or the best move in this position. In any case, not like the only thing that you have to be careful of is White is to not blunder checkmate. With this position, they spent 2 seconds and mated themselves. So again, this is not because of a lack of ability. I am almost certain this player could have won this if they just took a little bit more time to calculate. Okay, now we're going to look at an example of an OTB player. This was from a tournament that I recently played. My opponent was maybe, he might have been like 10 to 12 years old, so just a little kid. And his rating was about 1720, 30, maybe 1750, I don't know, 1700 plus FIDE player. Keep in mind, this is an opening, so this is the Scandinavian knight f6 line that I happen to know very well. And so keep in mind, in theory, I was more prepared in this opening than my opponent was. By move, let's just say like right about here, this is move 9. I was likely up time because there was a 1 hour, 30 minute plus 30 seconds per move. I was probably at an hour and 32 or 33 minutes because I was playing these moves instantaneously. My opponent had already spent about 15 to 20 minutes of the clock thinking about these moves. However, as you guys are going to see, the second that we get out of theory, this was the last move where I had memorized and I knew it was top engine move. After a3 blocking my knight moving to b4, it's now up to me to just calculate, try to find the best move, just like my opponent. I didn't exactly do that, and I didn't know that the best move here is actually bishop c5. It is the only move that keeps the advantage for black. As you guys can see, black is better here, but you have to find the right moves to continue. And in this position, I decided to actually trade the knights off, which is not the right way to go about this because my advantage is the attack that I have, and white has an extra pawn. At this point, white is up a pawn, and so theoretically, if we just trade down to an endgame, I'm losing because I'm a pawn down. Anyhow, so the game goes on, and as you guys will see, I'm not playing terrible moves. None of these, okay, knight a5 is a miss, but bishop e2 is considered a mistake, so we're not playing perfectly, but I'm not blundering or making horrible moves. You'll see though that my opponent took the time. They thought, they evaluated the position, and they defended, in my opinion, wonderfully. And it felt to me like I was just slowly being grinded down, and my advantage just slowly dissipated, partly because of my own mistakes, but also partly because white played, they took the time and they played this well. I traded again, didn't really see much of an option there. And just to show you guys, we end up in this position, right? Keep moving the knight around. I'm trying to attack things, and I just can't find anything. And somehow we trade everything off, and I lost this game. So that is just one example. That does not mean that OTB players are not going to miss winning opportunities and blunder occasionally. That's not what I'm saying, but it is much, much more likely that your opponent on an online chess game will do that due to just not taking the time they have to think, find the correct move. Which brings us to the second point, which is that online players are going to rely more on time and the time advantage and flagging. You will very often see, this happens to me all the time, a game where you or one of the players gains an advantage in the opening or maybe the mid game. Maybe you even get a whole piece, right? You win an entire piece, but your opponent then starts playing super quickly and they have a pretty big time advantage. Let's just imagine that it's a 10-minute rapid game, right? And truly the time does count. A 10-minute rapid game is almost closer, in my opinion, to a blitz game. You have to play fast, and it is very, very likely that you will flag if you are not careful with your time, especially because there's no increment. But what this means is that an online player, given the choice between taking the time to find the best move and playing a mediocre or acceptable move quickly, is very often going to opt for the mediocre or just acceptable move, but played quickly. Why? Quite simply because it gives them an advantage on the clock, and as the game progresses more towards a middle game or an end game, they're going to have more time to think and find the winning moves. But what doesn't always make sense, of course, is that, as we've seen, even when they have the time advantage to use and to find the winning move, they often do not use it. This actually tends to happen to me all the time on online chess. I'm going to show you one recent example that was pretty devastating and was a very hard pill to swallow, where I was playing a 2000 rated opponent, as you guys can see here, and had gained an extremely big advantage out of the opening or mid game. Let's move forwards a little bit here. Okay, we have basically just a typical London system. And as you guys can see, my opponent is playing super quickly. We're on move, let's see here, 12. They have used not even a minute of their time. Could be faster, but definitely playing fast. And I'm already down to 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I'm playing fast too, but not that fast. We get here. My opponent actually took some time with this move, but I guess they just, I don't know what they were thinking, but they full-on blundered a piece, right? So they're not spending a whole lot of time. They blundered an entire piece. This is also just a reminder and encouragement to anyone who thinks 2000 ELO online on chess.com is unattainable. It absolutely is not. You play this move in an over-the-board game, you will get destroyed. Anyways, they blunder the entire piece, and I take it. As you guys will see, I am at 8 minutes. My opponent is at 8 minutes and 40 seconds. And what's going to happen now is that my opponent is going to start playing super quickly because they have nothing to lose, and likely very tricky moves, maybe dubious, but tricky, that makes me have to take time to think. So the game goes on. As you guys will see, I'm already down to 6 minutes in the next 2-3 moves, and my opponent is still at 8 minutes. Okay, I'm using my time. Poor time management on my part, but The game goes on. I'm still making decent moves. I'm still completely winning, trying to force trades. And all of a sudden, we're on move, let's see here, 22. I'm down to 3 minutes. My opponent is down to 7 minutes. So they're really playing fast, and I am really not playing fast enough. The game goes on. I'm trying to be careful here because I don't want to trap my queen. And basically, time just keeps going down, and we get into this position that's really tricky where, yeah, like you might see this and think, well, that's just a hanging rook. But yeah, if I take that rook, they take my rook with check, and actually there's a threat. There's some lingering possibilities of perpetuals here if I move my queen. I have 1 minute and 50 seconds to figure this out. My opponent has 6 minutes, and what ended up happening? Well, I took the rook, and I just didn't have the time to really find the winning moves and convert. This kind of thing, and then I blundered at the end. But again, blundering is normal when you have 40 seconds on the clock, and I lost. I lost this game, and this happens to me all the time, where someone blunders or is clearly just playing acceptable moves out of the opening, but they're playing very, very fast, and they're going to win the game due to flagging. That being said, I also occasionally do this. I also can play very, very fast, and when I see that my opponent is winning, I don't always resign, and sometimes I just start playing really fast to try to flag them. Especially sometimes, you guys see like someone who's clearly an older person, if they put their profile photo and it looks like an older gentleman, and maybe you take a look at the profile and see that they don't play any blitz or bullet, and you decide to try to flag them. That happens all the time, where they are completely winning, but you think to yourself, you know what? Are they really going to be able to win if they have 1 minute on the clock here and they just play too slowly, right? Now, if you take this approach to an over-the-board chess game, what you'll find is that you will get demolished by your local like 1500, 1600 fide. Oftentimes they're just like a little kid. They will destroy you. You will not last. Why? Because they have the time to think and calculate. And what might even be a mistake, not even like a huge blunder, but a move that is even just a mistake, that can cost you the entire game. One mistake can cost you the entire game if your opponent is able to find the following winning moves. And if they happen to take the time and they calculate correctly and they find the best continuation, you're toast. You're done for, and it just does not work with over-the-board chess. Furthermore, for online players who exclusively play online and know over-the-board, let's just say that the longest games that they play are 10-minute rapid games, maybe 15-minute games with 10-second increment, and then, of course, like maybe 5-minute or 3-minute blitz, 1-minute bullet games. The problem with that is that they are incentivized to play just a decent move quickly rather than developing a habit of finding the best move. And the consequences of this, as we're going to discuss later in the video, is that quite simply, you are not practicing your calculation. You are not practicing your visualization, your calculation, trying to go beyond what you are currently capable of seeing, and the mistakes that you're making, and so on and so forth. And if you guys are like me, you might have a tendency to play a bunch of 10-minute games, or 5 or 3 or 1-minute games. You win, and you just think to yourself, yeah, but I won. So, I did something right. I'm doing good. I'm playing really good. Maybe you see the little thing on chess.com that says that you played like a 2400 player. So you start thinking, okay, I could play like a 2400 player. However, I can say with experience that if you are thinking you're a 2400 rated player, you are going to be met with a very harsh reality when you go and play in an over-the-board tournament or just game when you're not used to calculating and visualizing, especially with, a 3D real chess set in front of you. Number 3, this point doesn't really deserve a whole lot of attention, but I still have noticed it and wanted to point it out, which is that online players tend to rely more on computer and engine analysis to evaluate and analyze their own games, whereas over-the-board players, I have noticed, very often will analyze and go over the game that they just played, maybe with their opponent or just themselves, and just kind of go through it, trying to find where they made mistakes, where they missed a win, where they might have played a good move, whatever. But just based off of their own understanding and their own bag of tools, their own calculation. An online player might tend to be a little bit more reliant on the computer in the evaluation, whether it's chess.coms or lichesses, etc. And I do think this has some kind of repercussion and plays into the big differences between online and over-the-board players, being that over the board players truly, like, the global difference is just that they really try to understand. They are constantly trying to understand and take their understanding further. Whereas online players, it is more of an intuitive, just repeat, rinse and repeat, play. And so I thought it's worth mentioning. But it is not all bad for online players. And point number 4, we're going to discuss some of the advantages that online players might have compared to their over-the-board equals. So as we discussed, online players likely have developed their intuition. Okay, I might have forgotten to switch the camera view, and I don't really feel like going back and recording all of that. So anyways, now an online player, like we've discussed, is probably going to have a more developed intuition, and this definitely can help you, because when you are facing a position where you need to find the best move, there are a couple ways to go about that. A classical player is more likely to calculate a few of the best looking moves, some different variations, try to find the best responses for their opponent, etc. And it's going to take some time. They're going to calculate. Whereas an online player might just get a feeling, like, I just feel like this is the best move. I don't know why it's the best move, but I get this feeling that it is the best move in the position. And then based off of that intuition, maybe they go and calculate it out to see if it really works. And the two of them combined together is a pretty deadly combination, I would say. I think that the downside to being too reliant on calculation, which could happen with over the board players, is that they calculate so much that you see ghosts. Sometimes when you're playing over the board, you'll calculate and you'll calculate and you'll calculate, and it's like your brain just gets so bogged down that you're calculating, but you don't even know what you're seeing anymore, if it's winning or not, etc. And that's where you really can use that intuition to come in and not only save you some energy, but perhaps find the winning move. Okay, now number 5, online players are more likely to feel comfortable in time pressure. More than likely, if you are an online player, then you play maybe rapid and also blitz and bullet. At least if you're not, I would highly recommend it. Don't focus on blitz and bullet, because I don't think that's going to help improve your chess in the long run, but it is definitely important to incorporate those, I think, in your play so that you get used to playing under time pressure. What I've noticed is that the over-the-board players who play no online chess, there are many who just completely avoid online chess, or if they do, they play maybe 10-minute, 15-minute, or 30-minute rapid games. They don't touch blitz or bullet games. They are pretty bad under time pressure. They tend to crack, and they don't deal with the time pressure. They don't know how to use their intuition in critical moves. Whereas an online player might be able to, let's say you're playing a classical game, and you get down to like 5 minutes or 3 minutes. They tell themselves in their head, this is now a blitz game. I know how to play blitz, so I can do this. I just need to move, and find a good move, maybe even an excellent move, but do it quickly. Okay, so given the difference between online players and over-the-board players, here is my advice to all of you, regardless of which one you are. Play both. Play online games and play OTB games, but prioritize OTB chess games or longer time controls. Why? Quite simply because if you are only ever playing at most 10-minute rapid games, you are not developing your ability to calculate. And if you prioritize and focus on those longer time controls, at least 30 minutes or more, whether it's over the board or in an online game, what you're doing is taking the time to find the best moves, developing your core chess principles that first you have to learn, then you can make more automatic later on. You guys have all probably seen a grandmaster on a 3-minute, online blitz game play out an exceptionally complicated end game or middle game in a matter of seconds, which would take us at least minutes, if not hours, to do. The reason they can do that is because they are all exceptional over-the-board players. You do not become a grandmaster, or for that matter, get any title by playing online chess. So let us not forget that the strongest chess players that we look up to are all, without exception, excellent over-the-board chess players. They just also happen to play online and be exceptional online players. So just to recap, if you play online chess, my advice is to continue playing online. And not only continue playing online, play all the time controls. Play those 10-minute rapid games. Play the 5-minute or 3-minute blitz games. Even play bullet. I highly recommend playing bullet and getting your bullet skills up, because that's really going to help you play under time pressure. But if it's possible for you guys to play over the board in person, whether it's in tournaments, whether it's joining your local club and playing on a team or something like that, prioritize those longer time controls where you are really going to improve your ability to calculate, to evaluate, put yourself in a terrain where you cannot just rely on playing fast and hoping to flag your opponent. You need to outplay them. You have to play better than them. You have to find more of the best moves than they do. That is what is going to make you a stronger chess player, and that skill will transfer over to your online chess and to your faster time controls. It might take a little bit of time. That's why you shouldn't just stop playing online chess and only play over the board. You should play both, but I promise you, you are not going to stay stagnant and get worse if you play over the board chess and you try to improve and understand your mistakes and go beyond. Whereas, unfortunately, it is very possible to plateau, to stay where you are in online chess. Think of someone who just constantly plays blitz or bullet and they just constantly repeat the same patterns, the same things that they know. And because they never take time to try to find something better, they just never improve. They stay where they are. This was me like 2 or 3 years ago. I played way too much blitz, and that is the reason why I probably haven't already hit 2000 in rapid on chess.com, because I played way too much blitz and bullet and I did not play enough longer time controls. So I hope you guys found this video useful and instructive. If you did, please like and subscribe and comment below what you guys think. Share your own experiences with the difference between online chess and over the board chess. And like I said, put in the comments below what your online rapid rating is. And if you have an over the board like FIDE or USCF rating, I'd be super curious to know what those are and to compare. And by the way, if you are interested in following my own journey to 2000 ELO on chess.com, you can click on the video below. The Road to 2000 FIDE series will be coming soon. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.